Alright, so the new James Bond game just dropped yesterday, the 27th of May, and I got every single trophy, including the Platinum Trophy. This is the first James Bond game to release since 2012, so it's been well over a decade, and man, I gotta say, they cooked today. In total, the game contains 38 trophies with the Platinum Trophy. It took me just 14 hours to finish, and it was pretty easy. Absolutely nothing is missable. There's a chapter select, so you can go back anytime and replay the levels with a very good checkpoint feature as well. Overall, this is probably one of the most fun platinums to get just because it's so easy and the game is amazingly fun. Also, before the video starts, I just got a puppy named Steve, and he told me to tell you guys to drop a like and subscribe, and I'll give him some treats. Alright, so starting off with the game, like any new James Bond media, we got an origin story. Yes, you heard me right, we aren't even in the MI6 program at the start of the game. Instead, James Bond is simply an airman for the British Army and their squad who was dispatched to a remote island to investigate a group of scientists and engineers who have gone AWOL and haven't checked in for days. However, while flying up on the location, the action starts right away and all of our helicopters got shot down by missiles, as if we were in the midst of the Gaza Strip. A shot then shows James Bond himself dead. Yes, he died right away. Just kidding, he's fine. He just swims up like nothing happened. For the next few moments, we then stumbled around trying to get our whereabouts as the enemy force here eradicates any remnants of our platoon, and then we are the only one left. The last survivor, the lone wolf. Yeah, I can't think of any other terms. Anyways, then wander around this area dodging enemies until hiding behind a rock and trying to contact base. While doing so, MI6 takes over because the mission has fallen into the higher up hands now. We then talk to a girl for the rest of the mission, guiding us on our way, and then we go through a ton of parkour. If you don't already know, this game was made by the Hitman developers, and the streets are saying it's basically Hitman Uncharted, and I gotta agree. Long story short, this first level's plot had us going to a camp with a highly classified study going on. There is a ton of scientists, engineers, etc., all being held captive if, not already shot dead, and it's our job to save them all whilst also making sure the enemies here don't snag any top secret items. Now, in true Hitman game style, we also obtained an outfit to blend in, and they for the most part had no clue we were here. However, after sneaking into this biohazard tent, we ended up getting hit with a nerve agent because we don't have the orange suits on. So then you desperately search for a cure, and in doing so, we did have to rip off our outfit, so for the rest of the level, it is true stealth time now. And the goal became to find the containers B4 and G9. Inside both are the captives we need to set free, and to do this, it's very easy. There is a convenient crevice in the middle of the map going essentially back and forth between the two, and when running in there, you can't get seen at all. So just running to both, saving the captives, using a few environment tools, etc., and then we moved on to the following objective, which became to knock this mast down. Now, the mast is right above container B4, and you pretty much just climb up, pull the safety clamp, and it crashed down very, very harshly, causing some fires, chaos, and our next goal being to escape. Now, escaping the camp is simple. Run for your life. We would get caught up in a fight right away with a guard, though, and little Jamesy Bondy here got his first kill of the day. It left him pretty shell-shocked, to be honest, but the guy also blinked, I'm pretty sure, unless that's a bug, so yeah, no wonder bro looks so lost. I am honestly also. Anyways, we then just ran, and it was a ton of fun. However, it ends off with us on a ledge overlooking the ocean with nowhere else to go. The enemies finally caught up to us, but we had a detonator for some bombs they placed all over the island, and then we just pretty much blew up the entire island. Talk about going out with a bang. And then the first trophy of the day popped from the story called Icebreaker. Oh yeah, I then also had to download a 22 gigabyte update after, so yeah, shout out to my Wi-Fi for being slower than Jesus Christ returned to Earth. Oh my god! Anyways, back at it, there was then a lot of cinematics sort of introducing us to the Bond game. It was cool, my eyes enjoyed the light show, and this all leads into the next chapter of the game. So this is chapter 2, it's very simple, mostly having us in the MI6 HQ and getting recruited. After our display of such, effectiveness, it would be a shame to have us return back to the Air Force. So we talked to the girl in charge, being named M or Ma'am, or her actual name is... well, you know what? I guess it's just M after all. We then got sent to the 00 agent recruitment program because conveniently enough, MI6 is starting that back up now. Now, for some more lore in this timeline, MI6 shut down the 00 program because of some incident that will be disclosed later. But they are starting it up back now, and the training instructor, you know, the guy in charge of it, is none other than a man named Greenway. Now, you might recognize his face and appearance because he is from The Walking Dead and, you know, I guess some other things. Throughout this entire game, though, I can never look at him seriously because, bro, this meme, it just comes to mind every single time I see his goddamn face. It's so funny. I died laughing realizing that that was him while playing. Yeah, it's so funny. Anyways, for the next portion of gameplay and chapters of the story, it kind of goes through a training montage. It was actually very seamlessly integrated. We learned basically everything about the combat in this game, the special moves, gadgets, etc. During this, I also got a trophy called Sleight of Hand, which was a part of the story from just disarming an enemy by shooting their weapon. So here is that once I did it. To end up the training for now, we then scuffle with this dude named Monroe, who was at first a hater of ours, but after punching each other across this island through numerous rooms, we became boys and graduated from the program. So we are now a 00 agent, and we then got a tour of all the secret stuff MI6 has been cooking up. All in all, you know, not much happened besides more intro into tools, gadgets. We also got given an apartment to work out of that we share with Monroe and a baddie named Cressida. Sounded like a villain from Snow White, but I'd for sure want to see her snow all white, if you know what I'm saying. Oh god. After that, however, we did return back to do even more training, a bit more advanced this time, however, and we also went up against, you know, real, I guess, quote-unquote enemies during this. All in all, it was fun, a very solid way to introduce the mechanics while also adding a lot to the characters and story. It did last, you know, quite a long time, however, so yeah, this might have been good for like 30 minutes, but it's okay. After one more cutscene with Cressida back at the crib, I finally got another story trophy from completing the training in Malta. So we then got sent out on our first assignment, and it was to a nightclub. The Hitman Games did the nightclub missions immaculately well, and again, they nailed it. The vibe of the club was amazing, and it looked great, so round of applause to the lighting director. But our goal was very simple, just find a contact wearing red at the bar. So I simply moseyed on over, and I found this very hot chick in red. Perks of the job, I thought, but unfortunately, it turns out that this actually wasn't the person we were after. And then her boyfriend showed up, angry as ever. Also, he looks oddly like William Poulter, you know, that dude from the Maze Runner movie, so I giggled a little bit. But then I found the real contact, and it was a very stoic man, so yeah, I should have guessed that one. Anyways, he told us about the pickup we need to get, which is in the bathroom, because why not? I mean, where else are we gonna hide a pickup? That blonde chick could have probably fit that in her fatty, not gonna lie. Anyways, I then just ran into the men's room, and the pickup ended up being in the third stall. Once getting it, we found out that some executive has leaked a trade secret, and all 3 of the culprits are here, so that expands upon our goal in the club itself. However, after the cutscene played, that girl's boyfriend followed us in to beat some balls. And I'm not gonna lie, the guy is a solid punch. I guess if you're dating an extremely hot girl and you're very insecure, you're gonna need one. I'm assuming this isn't the first time he's gone in a men's room to touch guys, so, you know, he's had training. But I still knocked him out. I don't even want to imagine how many germs he is getting resting on a club's bathroom floor. So moving on, the club objective changed, and we basically just had to investigate the culprits that are in the club now. The first dude we went after was somebody named Joshua Pike, and finding him was a bit of a pain. But once doing so, you just simply hack his phone to get any evidence from it, and then you have to stay close by as to not lose the signal. However, blonde girl showed up again. I imagine she has learned now that we just bodied her boy, and she, you know, she low-key wanted that James Bond dong, if you catch my drift. However, we did shrug her off because we don't mix business with pleasure, mostly. And then I completed the hack. Turns out that Pike is our guy. So we then caught up with Cressida on the next move, which became us finding a way to trap him and continue on with the investigation. I decided to simply just throw him in the bathroom and then, you know, snap the door handle off so bro will never have to worry about peeing again. We then located Pike's contact because he was trying to sell those trade secrets that he got leaked, and he was trying to sell it to this absolute gothic bombshell. In a world of Naughty Dog making games with bald black woman, at least we got IO Interactive out here just shelling us countless baddies. I love this game. Unfortunately, the goth baddie was not so easygoing, and she didn't really believe us when we said we were the guy. Our case was not helped when the blonde girl came over and started talking smack straight to our face. Who would have thought a threesome could go so poorly? Anyways, as the contact was walking away, we said last chance, and I guess, you know, that was like her trigger word, and it convinced her. Playing hard to get, I see you, girl. But that was in it for the job, so we headed to extraction. However, on the way, the blonde girl's boyfriend came back again, and we again had to beat some ass. All in all, it was a pretty simple fight. The homies also joined in as well, and then we dipped finally, getting a trophy after one more cutscene from again the story. Now, right away after that trophy popped, the next assignment began, and this is also when the game's big story and sort of conflict gets introduced. A rogue agent being 009 has resurfaced after nearly a decade of hiding on the run, and allegedly he has evidence of a massive conspiracy, and he's asking for for a full pardon. The kicker is he will only talk to Greenway, our agent leader and 009's partner back in the day. So then Greenway and the team all join up for a briefing from Moneypenny, who is this chick right here. She's like our tech whiz and also the girl that initially helped us on the radio way back in the intro of the game. Long story short, the deal or alleged whereabouts of 009 all takes place in Slovakia at the World Chess Championship. No, Magnus Carlsen was not there, and yes, I am sad he didn't have a cameo. Somehow this cringe motherfucker from TikTok did, but okay then. Anyways, back to the story. We got assigned to just sit outside and wait in case 009 makes a run. But right away when doing that, we spotted this very suspicious bellhop who just, you know, does not act like how a professional bellhop should. And I guess that was enough for James to develop an obsession and need to find this man. So for literally the entire mission, we chased after this dude, and I'm not kidding. That's all you do. It is fun, don't get me wrong, but that's just the goal we had. Now, all the while doing this, our friends being again Monroe and Cressida were saying to drop it, you know, leave it be, yada yada do. Monroe would end up finally coming around at the end. However, it was a slight sliver too late because the blonde man bellhop guy got to him and he shot him dead on the spot. We were the ones to find him, and I honestly was pretty sad. Monroe is actually a very funny character, and he's gone. Rest in peace, brother. Also, the blonde dude we were after showed up to fight us at the exact same time. Now, forgive me when I say this, but bro, he looks like a Nazi. I don't know what about his face makes me think that, but I'm getting it. So we then fight him. I ended up winning, and then we had to try and defuse the bomb. But then another blonde dude shows up, and it turns out that these two guys are identical twins. How neat. Call it the Holocaust. Anyways, we didn't fight them for a while, but after a long time, they just kind of dipped because, I mean, the bomb is still ticking and ticking. We then tried to defuse it, which we kind of do, but I guess we didn't, and it then just blows up. Also popping a trophy right away after that. Now, somehow James just kind of stood up from that despite literally being point blank to the bomb, but Cressida didn't. And we then learn that Cressida has been paralyzed from the explosion. Greenway shows up, and we also spot 009 stumbling around. A chase then ensues, and it leads all the way onto the road. We also got joined by another absolute baddie. Man, they're just blessing us today. It's worth a kidney I had to sell to get this game. And then we chased after 009 with this mystery woman who is also a foreign agent. Not MI6. I think she's like French or something. They never really say exactly what her job title is. She truly is a mystery. But aren't all women, am I right? Haha. I don't know. I don't know how to talk to females. That's what I'm saying. Long story short, we catch up to 009's car. He dipped, and then he got on a plane. So we, of course, just jumped on the plane off of an airport cargo loader. I mean, what else were we gonna do? So we then fight a bunch of enemies on the plane. Then we dropped down and fought even more in the plane before the said plane blew up, and there was then an absolutely awesome skydiving scene. Our goal during it was to simply find somebody who had a parachute so, you know, we wouldn't die from the fall. After doing so, that was then the chapter completed, and I got a trophy called Skyfall. Get it? That's a Bond movie. Peak cinema, by the way. After that, multiple cutscenes played out showing us the aftermath. Basically, our entire team is either dead, in hiding, or disabled. Such a shame. Cressida was more than just a baddie. She was also a cool girl. A rare find. So after a lot of setup for the next assignment, it ended up being in a place called Aleph, which is like this criminal hive where a lot of shady people and deals go down inside of, and also where 009 is hiding out at allegedly. Now before anything of note really happens, we have to get into this auction, which is being held by the top dog who started Aleph, and it requires both an invitation and also 100,000 USD to even be let inside. So for the next 30 minutes, I just ran around grabbing collectibles, which by the way, I know I haven't mentioned those yet. They are the hardest part of this platinum. There is 92 total collectibles with 6 trophies tied to them. If you ever miss any, however, you can just go back and chapter select, so it's not really a worry there. But back to the story, I finally got 100k through, you know, numerous means. And then we entered the auction, which was for this highly dangerous and effective jet thingy. I mean, look at it. It looks like it could drone strike some people. I'm sure Obama is slobbering at the mouth seeing it. Long story short, we end up winning the auction by just saying we will give up 30 years or something of MI6 secrets after winning a story trophy that pops from, you know, winning the auction. Now, since we won the auction, we then got a little bit closer to the higher ups of this area, and they let us explore past the shipwreck hub. In doing so, we ended up tracking down 009 to his boat, and then his body. Yes, somebody got to him before us, and well, the poor dude is just now staying in a chair. A trophy also popped after, by the way, and here is that. A cutscene then plays out, and at the end of it, a bunch of enemies from Aleph's, I guess, bad side showed up, and they knocked us both out, and then we awoke hanging above a pit of alligators or crocodiles. I can never tell the difference. Is there even one? Anyways, we were here because the leader of Aleph finally figured out that we are not who we really say we are, and his name is Balma, by the way. I'm pretty sure his parents' name named him after the sound that he made when plopping out of his mom's vagina, because what the f is that? Anyways, he nearly dipped us down there, but then Greenway finally woke up and just says that he knows where Harmony is, which set off the dopamine receptor of this dude, and he immediately says to pull us out. I'm honestly still not sure who Harmony is, but she must be a great stripper. So good that we then just got let out of the city with a car even. Anyways, we then drive that car to another shipwreck, which 009 has led us to because he hid a briefcase with some info in it as to what's really happening. Now, we don't find out the whole picture, but just that 009 wasn't the culprit. He was being targeted by some other entity. So there are some shadow people playing this game that we don't yet know of. Never a good thing, boys and girls. I like to get f***ed by somebody I know, if you catch my drift.
What did he say?
So there's then a massive amount of combat, and this game's actual core gameplay slaps pretty hard. The gunplay is amazing. The hand-to-hand combat is amazing. I really have zero complaints about the combat and gameplay of this game. It's just perfect in every way. So yeah, GG's IO Interactive. At some point in this very big and very long combat section, I also got a combat trophy called Heal Live from knocking out an enemy with just a leg shot. And I did this because I found a very powerful gun that just one-shots enemies, so GG's, and here is that. And just a few moments after, I got another combat trophy called Disarming Personality from, disarming an enemy with a laser. I'm honestly not positive how this one works. I pretty much just used the laser gadget on an enemy in combat and it popped, so yeah. Now, to end off this very long and intense combat section, you have to just run forwards until reaching our car once more. A cutscene then plays, and during it we got hit with an RPG. Another combat section then happens, but this one is much more stagnant, and we just kind of sit behind the car and do what we can until all of our ammo runs out. The boys then sort of accept defeat as the enemies make their way ever so closer. However, right before they did reach our scrotum, that black dude from earlier, whose name is still Wild, shows up with his squad, and then they save the day. The chapter then ended off with another sword trophy pop. Now, after that very intense assignment, M told everyone to go home and take a few days to recuperate, because we honestly have been kind of getting destroyed recently, if you couldn't tell. However, while on our day off, we got jumped immediately by assassins in our own apartment. Crazy work, not gonna lie, that's like straight up spawn camping at that point. Now, once going to the kitchen and then took out the other guy. However, in the cutscene when James was asking who he works for, classic line, James, you gotta bond that hoe. The dude says, take the shot, and then a sniper nearly removes our ribcage from our body. This leads into a very, very long section where we're basically just running from the sniper, and I'll fast forward because not much really happens besides a lot of fun parkour and controlling a crane. And this sniper dude is none other than one of those damn blonde Nazi-looking twins. He also totally destroyed us, and we fell to our death. Just kidding, of course. We have plot armor, obviously. Once climbing down from the window, another sword trophy popped right away. Now, after that, we then made our way to the Webb Gala, which was a gala that Nicholas Webb was hosting. Nicholas Webb, by the way, is like the richest man in Europe as far as I know. He controls a lot of the economy, government, and even MI6's funding, so he's kind of a big deal. Now, there has been some rumors or hints so far in the story at him being a bit evil and even being the main villain. Okay, I'm gonna spoil for the sake of the video. Nicholas Webb is the main villain of the game. He's a bad guy, and we'll find out why pretty soon, actually, as to what he's doing that's so evil. But for now, we are just sneaking in to find any dirt and even him to begin with. Another reason why we have an inclination he is evil is because the assassin that just came after us also fled into the gala as well. So this entire chapter is just us trying to find him in the gala. It was very hard because the place is huge and I was entirely lost throughout it. Fast forward like an hour of wandering, I did finally find him, and the dude's name is Murto, or at least that's his last name. What the hell is up with everyone being named so weird besides James? I love it. Anyways, we end up finding him finally, and there is an actual boss fight against Murto. The boss fights in this game aren't really traditional boss fights in the terms of no matter who we fight throughout, you can never just normally damage them. It reminds me a lot of the Metal Gear Solid boss fights, actually, with how you need to use the environment to do substantial damage, and that's exactly what we did here, with my final point of damage being a giant fume extractor, which once hacked, spit out fire at Murto, and well, it burned him alive. In the cutscene that followed, we then saw James and Murto tussle quite a bit until James was being backed into a trident, but at the last second he dipped out of the way and Murto got impaled, so that's one twin down. And then a sword trophy popped afterwards. Now, to end off the chapter, we then walk down to the lobby again, and we meet up with that girl from earlier who we still don't know the name of, and then both of us and her went and mingled with Damien, who is Nicholas Webb's very troubled son. A cutscene then plays showing Nicholas Webb on stage introducing his newest product, being robots. Who doesn't love when a rich dude makes an army of robots, right? Haha, that never turned out badly for anybody. While this was happening, however, James ended up feeling ill and passing out from a roofie that Damien gave him in his drink. crazy work. So this is when it really gets exposed that they are indeed truly evil. I mean, Damien literally is trying to kill us now for all the troubles we have caused in our last few assignments for him and his father, who is also here. Long story short, Nicholas Webb is trying to control a narrative, and he sends out Damien to do his bidding whenever something goes wrong. This all relates back to the quantum computer that helps out MI6 run, called Thea. It basically gives orders, plans, assignments, runs the whole thing, etc. But Thea is not really working right and hasn't for ages, but Mr. Webb has convinced everyone into thinking it's some revolutionary piece of technology. I don't know, it's a long story, just know that he's a bad dude and his son is even worse. James and the girl end up escaping, however, pretty easily. All you gotta do is taunt Damien until he walks away, and then she slips out, and yeah, Bob's your uncle. The baddie's name, by the way, we do find out, and it's Isla. Again, a weird ass name. Why couldn't we just go with Molly or something? We then have the simple goal of escaping this place, and it's for the most part straightforward. There was some very intense combat encounters here and there, but overall nothing new. And then it ends off with us escaping in a garbage truck, which was honestly dope. I don't think I've ever played a game where they had us deliberately drive a garbage truck to escape enemies. We then rode over to Greenway to see if they got to him, and he was completely fine. Show off.
Did you take one of my protein bars?
And then the chapter ended off with another Switch pop right here. Then moving on, the next chapter again kicked off right away, and we were joined with Greenway once more. This time, instead of going to a foreign country, we just went to Webb's big tech building called the Perch, and we were trying to figure out just what the hell he is up to and why he is all of a sudden killing off everyone and ruining everything. Now again, like last chapter, there wasn't really that much combat or anything that really happened in the first portion of it. Just us trying to get into the place because it's all locked up. I appreciate realism game, but also this is a video game, so eventually we do make it deeper inside and end up fighting some enemies for the first time. I also would get a random combat trophy during this called Fire Starter from pushing an enemy into a fire extinguisher. So yeah, very easy, you got it on accident, and here it is. Then moving on, we then made it past those enemies and entered Webb's very cool and secretive office where we will find out some pretty insane lore. However, just entering it was a trophy called All Time High from, well, I guess, infiltrating it, as they say. All we were really looking for in here, however, was a safe, which is easily found by just pressing a button on his desk and then a code inside the safe. I found it pretty much right away, and then unfortunately Nicholas and Damien do show up, and we have to kind of like sneak around and record their conversation, but nothing really concrete occurred, so you know, kind of a fail. However, then a timer does begin to count down, and we had to escape before it hit 0, obviously, or we would be stuck here. This was an immensely fun portion of the level, you know, makes up for most of it being quite bland, to be honest, but all in all, we did escape on this bridge. However, that wasn't it for the chapter. The next part had us infiltrating their servers this time, and we had to get a bunch online to be able to fully access the data. Once being done with that, we then find out what I was sort of explaining earlier about how Thea, the quantum computer that runs basically everything, is flawed, and Nicholas Webb keeps on covering it up with the help of his son. And when I say cover up, I mean basically going in and murdering, tampering with evidence, etc. After seeing this, the man himself shows up, and they tried to gas us to death. They truly are Nazis. But to escape the gas, you just follow the red lights to a vent, and then it's safe to breathe. The rest of the chapter then had us fight and fight and fight, ultimately ending off with us running to a helicopter to escape with Greenway. I did it easily, and the trophy popped finally from the chapter's completion. The next chapter then took a very big detour in the usual story we were doing, and we ended up going to a villa resort in Vietnam. Quite beautiful, I can't lie. Now our goal here was to mostly just find these 3 VIPs at the villa, being this girl named Teresa Lorca, who... Jesus Christ. A man named Ellis, who's just a rich party boy, basically. And then finally, this boss man named Raymond, he's a Chad. Long story short, Raymond ends up not being any trouble at all, but Teresa and Ellis get caught up by Damien and are both nearly taken out. However, we stepped in to save the day like usual. There's an absolutely insane amount of fighting that goes on. We also end up both fighting and also defeating the last twin of, well, 2, because that's how it works. And after doing so, a giant explosion occurs and the trophy pops. Now, right after that, we then awake, and we are strapped to a table with Damien right above us, sending a chainsaw of sorts to split us in 2. It's very funny how this game could have just not ever existed had Damien not been an extravagant, flamboyant fuck and just shot us dead. For real, this dude is a horrible villain. He has below a 10 IQ. Anyways, long story short, we escaped again after just stalling and taunting him. And we escape, if you're wondering, by Greenway shooting the saw and our locks with his sniper because he is now here. And for the rest of the chapter, we basically just do a lot of fighting with Greenway, sniping enemies on our behalf. It was very fun once more. The game truly does just nail combat, man. It's crazy, even if they are somewhat minimal in the grand scheme of things. After all was said and done, we end up having a boss fight to end off the chapter, and it's against Damien. Damien this time. Now the fight is actually very easy. The area is extremely large and it has tons of opportunities to damage him, so obviously we won once more, and Damien is he's not feeling good to say the least. But who's feeling worse is Greenway, sadly. At some point during our escape and the combat, he ended up getting shot right in the side and he bled out with us. Rest in peace, brother, you will be avenged. And then another sword trophy does pop. There was then this sort of intermission chapter where we kind of packed up and left MI6, both due to us going on numerous assignments that were not sanctioned, and also because the program is highly corrupt and it's just not working. However, you do get allowed to sneak around and grab some tools for the final few missions of the game that are now here. A trophy also does pop after the chapter ends called Solo, and here it is. So we are now into the final two missions of the game. The first of which had us with Isola on a yacht planning the next assignment together because we have a common enemy, Nicholas Webb. Also, I'm pretty sure they f***ed on the boat. That 007 next to James' name is not an agent number, it's the amount of baddies he has just laid out in this game. Insane work. It then flashes to us in the Arctic Circle at a top secret web industry research facility. Now in this facility is a top secret second quantum computer that Webb has been secretly using to foil countless plans and control Thea even more from MI6. So you basically just have to sneak in and try our absolute best to destroy it. During this mission, I also would get the first of many collectible trophies from the legacy items right here. The collectible trophies, by the way, also do take a minute to pop after you do get them all. I'm not sure why, but yeah, that's just how it is, I guess. Anyways, in this mission, the enemies are largely robots because, again, Webb has been developing those like crazy. But all in all, Isola ends up snagging the second quantum computer's core, which is needed to function it, and we then chased after her, also ridding a lot of enemies on the way. All in all, we caught her, and then we ended up self-reporting to MI6 because, I mean, we're stuck in the middle of an iceberg in the Arctic Circle, kind of a lost cause. But that did get us another story trophy pop. So after that, we then entered the final mission of the game. This one had a ton of combat. Pretty much the entire level was us just battling for our life and the freedom of the free world. The enemies here are all in MI6, completely taking it over, snagging every last bit of intel and Thea's quantum core, all led by Damien, as you could imagine. Because yes, he is not quite dead yet. But before we do the final boss fight against him, I got quite a few trophies. First from getting all of the postcards, which is another collectible, and then from shooting an enemy while he was throwing a grenade. I did this on complete accident as usual. And finally from finding all of the mementos in the game, another collectible trophy, plain and simple. Anyways, fast forward to the boss fight. It's against Damien, obviously, and it's pretty much the same mechanic as any boss fight in this game. Run for your life, use the environment, and that's about it. All in all, we end up taking him down by jumping into the water below, which apparently he can't swim, so yeah, we both drowned. But then Isola came out of fucking nowhere and saved us. The game then ends off with the final story trophy right here. Some final cutscenes happen showing us at the graves of our fallen friends, and M was also there. She then recruits us onto another assignment, and then the game ends off with a possible sequel being hinted on the way, so W developers. But with that finished, it's now time to begin up the trophy cleanup. I pretty much just went back and I got all of the collectibles I missed. I think in total I was missing like 4 out of the 92, so yeah, not any issue at all in finding those. I first got the all files trophy, and then I got the all playing cards trophy, and that topped them off, getting me the general all collectible trophy afterwards. Now the other part of this collectible has us going into the tac sim mode. This is the alternate mode aside from the story, and you basically just go into the areas of the story and do certain objectives, whether it be to kill X amount of enemies, grab intel, do certain combat moves, etc. And quite a few are honestly pretty hard, but the trophies thankfully are not. All you have to do is play through 3 tiers of any escalation, which is just a type of mode in the tac sim. There also is a trophy from just doing 1, which I got right here. I then just played through 2 more, a part of the same strand, and then that tier 3 trophy also did pop. Now I then dived into the operations because we need to beat one for the what if trophy, and the operations are quite a bit harder, just because the enemies are much stronger and we don't get any guns unless you bring in your own. But while doing them, I got 2 combat trophies. First called soft landing from tackling an enemy over a ledge, which is very easy and honestly a great way to get kills. Then damp soup from hacking a grenade before it explodes. Again, very easy, just hack it on the ground next to you and here it is. I then did finally complete an operation, and here's that trophy pop. Only one more trophy remained in this mode from just reaching level 3. So I just played some more levels. It's pretty simple, and yeah, here's the trophy pop once reaching level 3. Now I only have 2 trophies remaining. Both of them are combat as well. From using a gadget to escape confrontation and making an enemy taser another enemy. Now starting off with using a gadget trophy, it's actually very easy, and I'm kind of shocked I didn't have it already. But if you get seen when you're in a restricted area by a non-soldier person when asked to either comply or bluff, simply use the gadget to disable them anyway, and the trophy will pop. Easy peasy. I then just went back to a random level that had taser enemies on it, and then you just kind of hold the enemy as the taser guy guys lining up his shots. You got to get a little bit lucky, but this trophy should come with ease like mine did right here. So here's that trophy pop and the platinum trophy on 007 First Light. So that was the 007 First Light platinum trophy experience. I think this game is a banger. I love that James Bond finally got a new game. It's been forever, too long some would say, and I bet a lot of you guys watching this, including myself, have never even played a James Bond game because for the most part most of them are shut down now. I'm a huge fan of the movie, so yeah, I love it. But that's all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, boys.